Maybe you know that feeling too, of feeling overwhelmed with the time and the money at your hand, where you're either so busy or maybe you feel like you're so poor that you can't do all the things that you want to do and that you know you would love to do. And so I recently had a few more of those occasions where I actually ended up being quite overwhelmed, and so that's why I thought, hey, I should record my thoughts and my observations of how to actually get good with time and money in your life and get the thoughts a bit more organized. And so there are three components to those thoughts, and it's money, time, and energy, and all three of those are the key resources in our life that we can somewhat control, that we have at our disposal, where we can use them as we see fit. But there are a few thoughts and ideas that I want to touch in the video today to just get a grip on maybe how to actually get good at them. And so one idea that I quite like and I stuck with for quite some time now is the idea of being a good steward. Being a good steward means we're actually not the owners of the time, money, and energy. We're just in charge of them. So we're in the position to put them to use, but in the end, we don't deal with our own resources. We deal with given resources, and in the end, we need to give them back. And that idea kind of shows already the limitations of our resources. They're not there for us to keep. Like, we can't hold on to time. We can't hold on to money. We can try, but in the end, at least when we're dead, we can't just take the money with us. Or the energy, it's coming and going, and we can use it well, and that's what the good steward does. But we don't have it in our control to be using it or saving it the way we like. And so we need to understand that we have only limited amount of resources at our hands, and we should be careful with the way we spend those, because once they're spent, they're gone. And then we should also guard and protect the resources, that not everybody can have access of our resources that's not supposed to have them. I know that there's a difference to me. If my wife asks me to do something, then I know that will be my time and my energy that I need to use for it. But I know that she would also help me out, and that's how marriage works. We're there to help each other, but I'm not there for everybody else outside of my family to have always access to and be always approachable, and I'm jumping on everything I can do for everybody, because that would not be a wise use of my time and of my energy in the end. And so it really helps that we just hone in on the idea of borrowed resources, because we need to justify the use of those resources too. And so it's interesting, because if we go out in the day and we get ourselves so exhausted with the energy that in the end we come home and the kids might want to play, and we want to have a conversation with our wife, but we're so spent and exhausted that we can just lay flat on the couch. Then we have overspent the energy throughout the day, and our family has to pay the price for it. And the same goes for the time. If we lose track of time, it happens that we're not even remembering where we were supposed to be now. And so we forget things, and we don't do them on the time where they were supposed to be done. Also with money, if we splurge so much on the one side that we don't have money left to pay for the food or utilities at the end of the month, then we overextended the resources on us and on, I would even go as far as saying, worthless pursuits, and we haven't spent them where we know we should have spent them. And I think that's why we should dive deeper into the resources in our lives, to understand what the three components really are, to hone in on them, and then to see how we can actually get better at managing those. So there, like I said earlier, there are three key resources. It's time, energy, and money. And those three come maybe to a surprise to some of you. Some of you might list other things under the resources too, because we have more things than just those three. But in my experience, most of the other things that come to mind can be traced back to either one of the three. You might have employees in your business. And so you could think of your employees as resources because they're there. You can put them to use. Sure. But in the end, they're using up your money. And so they're part of how you spend your money, because that's the bigger resource than employees. The second thing is, you may have a big house or a big building or office building that you can use for social events, for gatherings, for whatever you like in the end. But you need to first pay money to the upkeep, and then you need to spend time there, because if you don't even spend time there, there are no social gatherings where you are going to be part of where it's not spending your time. So also the buildings or houses we have will reflect in time and money. Then we have services and software and apps. These things can be used to speed up processes, but in the end, we need to pay for them and we need to actually use them. And using them costs us time and energy. Where I understand that services and apps can be a good use of our energy and of our money, because it saves us time and energy, which in the end shows already the balance between the three resources. And so the first thing we'll focus on is time. Time is probably the most valuable resource we have, because it's the one resource that doesn't come back. Once the day is gone, the day is gone. We have 24 hours in a day. We have 7 days a week. We have 52 weeks in a year. And so that time is set. We can't just go back and be like, oh yeah, I want that year back, or I want that day back, and I want to relive that day. That's not how it works. So the sad reality is that often we end up valuing money higher than our time, because we're just sitting around on the couch procrastinating, which might not cost us money, but it definitely costs us quite a bit of time. Or we play games, or there are so many things that we do that cost time that we don't get back, and they don't really hold much value to them. The second thing, and it's closely related to time, it's slightly different in many nuances, and that's why I wrote it out separately, is energy. We have two kinds of energy. The first one is physical, and the second one is mental capacity. And both of that is the capacity where we can work and be active. The most obvious is that we're getting tired, and tiredness is running low on energy, which means we need to actually use time to refill our energy. And that's one way that time is spent, is regaining the energy. And so the first big thing is sleep. We need to sleep to gain energy back. We need to eat to gain energy back. We need to move to get energy back. And so all of those things is like, so energy is like a recharging battery that is getting spent throughout the day and that we can recharge throughout the day. And so the balance of that is our resource that we can use to put to work. Almost everything that we do throughout the day is either gaining us energy or it's costing us energy. So either or, it's not really possible to like gain energy while it's draining energy, because that's like counter active to each other. So basically we can spend energy in two ways. That is mental work, where we actually use our mind, our brain to do work. Most knowledge work would be considered mental work. We can also like talk or read or write, and that all consumes mental energy. If we spend time in the like being present with our family, that also consumes somewhat of mental energy, because we have conversations or we need to deal with things that happen throughout the day. And so all that is consuming mental energy and is in that sense mental work. The second part is the physical energy side, and there we work with our bodies. It will take up physical energy. So if we have a blue-collar job, or if we do workouts and sports, is all consuming physical energy. And so that is also something we need to look at, how much we can actually work out if we still want to do other things throughout the day. So the interesting part is that for some, willpower might be also an energy resource or a part of it, because if it takes us willpower, it's using up our energy, which I understand it to some point. I wanted to list it here, but I'll come back to that in some future video, because I think willpower is slightly different, because it is more a skill and a character trait than it is an energy resource in that sense, because it uses up energy, but it is not energy, or the task of it is not using not building on energy in that sense. It's using up other like skills to do it. So energy is important because we can't use time wisely without the help of energy. And that goes back to what I said earlier with the balance of, we need to spend time to gain energy. And if we want to use time wisely, we find the right balance between gaining and costing energy and find the sweet spot there. Energy has the fascinating part of rising and falling. We can rest and spend it. And the fascinating thing is also, it has a lot to do with emotions. And so that's another like interesting side effect of energy use. The vast resource we have is money. Money might be the most known resource in our life, because we actually have a feel of money, because money is, like, for many of us still physical available. Like, we have coins and we have cash, and you can use the bills to pay. And so there's definitely a more physical, more tangible understanding of money as a resource. We pay often quite close attention to how much money we make, how much money we spend, how much money we need. We feel most insecure about how much money we have, I would say. At least that's my observation. In many ways, money is the most tracked resource in our life, because we have a bank statement, we might have a budget plan. We have a bank app that tracks our spendings. And so we really have a good idea of money and how we use it, how we spend it. So money helps us because money is actually the only thing that can be saved for the future. And so the interesting thing is that money, with money we can buy others time for services. We can buy others energy to help us or to work for us. We can buy tools to help us gain time and energy back. As said, software and apps most of the time in today's world, but also a car is buying us travel time. If we would need to walk everywhere, it would take us a lot more time to get there and energy. It's interesting because money holds value that we can exchange easy. Money can be made by itself because money can produce more money. That's what we see in the stock market. And like money can build more money, whereas time can't raise more time, whereas energy can't raise more energy. So money is the only resource we can like get back after losing it, or we can get more of with using it, which that's an interesting mechanic of money. And that's also the main difference to energy and time. So all that said, it's probably quite a bit. But why does stewardship now matter? Because we can actually deplete ourselves. We can mine ourselves so hard that we don't even have energy left. We don't have time left. We chase money because it holds value for the future, but we forget to manage our time and energy wisely in the here and today. And so we actually sooner or later have to pay the price for that too. By the time we might have the money, we don't have time left for the important things in life. By the time we have the money, we don't have energy left to do the actual things. So that's the idea that I'm like also struggling with retirement, because the idea is that we'll work our lives to actually have some money and time and energy left for retirement to actually enjoy life. And that like idea is like struggling with me, I guess. With a family, we want to spend more time, energy, and money with the family and not necessarily working or doing things that aren't important. And so this means we need to become more effective with the resources that we have and that we spend elsewhere. So we need to become a good manager of the resources in our lives. And so that's where the idea is from, to say like, okay, so over our lives, we set a steward, which is also wearing the same hat as we do. So that's easy. We're our own stewards. And so as a steward, our job is time management, personal finance, and energy management, because as a steward, we need to pay close attention like a manager in a business, but not just in a business, in our personal life. A business has only money as a resource because the business doesn't have time and energy in it. It's only working because other people or we ourselves put time and energy into it. But in the end, a business is only like one-dimensional, whereas we're working three-dimensional with time management, personal finance, and energy management. So let's get into simple steps on how we can actually manage the resources well. I'm trying to cover them quickly here because with each of them, there will be their own no BS guide on the skill required or on the steps required to become good at it. And so here I'll just give you some pointers of where you can actually start. So on time management, how to time manage is stop procrastinating and do the first step and be active. So that's the first easy lesson. The second thing is that we actually need to know our priorities, because that helps us to find the best next step to do. And if we know what we need to focus on, it's easier for us to understand where to spend the time we have. The third tip is we need to do, or you should be doing what you know you need to be done. That way is the easiest way to actually win the day, is to just do what you know you should do, and not just push it off. And so everybody of us knows in the back of their head, like, oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing this. And if you do have that, that's the easiest to-do list, because just get that done. So don't just wait around and wait for it to happen, because don't think things don't happen. They cost more time in the end. The last tip is eat the frog first. I don't remember where that concept came from, but the concept is that you do the most important and urgent task first thing in the morning. The funny thing is, actually, doing so will give you energy for the day, because you get momentum to build the day on victories, which that's a huge advantage if you struggle to keep going in the day. Is if you have your first victory under your belt, is like, okay, next one, and then you're ready to get more done. So personal finance is actually also quite easy. First thing, know how much you have. Second thing is know how much you're spending. Third thing is cut the costs that you're spending less than what you're getting. Fourth is fill the rainy day piggy. The rainy day piggy is a savings account for hard times, where you can have money back for when the dishwasher breaks or the car needs a repair, like all those things. That's helpful to have this piggy bank, to not need to go in debt for things that you know will come at some point. And the fifth thing is cut the debt out of your life. There is helpful debt, but most debt is not helpful. And so pay it back in the fastest way possible. And with those 5 things, you have a lot of things figured out about personal finance. The last steps will be the energy management, which might be the hardest thing to figure out and get a grip on, because energy comes and goes, and it's tough to feel what does what, or what costs energy, and sometimes that also changes throughout the days. But there is a few things that I think are helpful. At least were helpful to me and are still helpful. And that's to start the day with their evening routine. I'm not starting my day in the morning. I'm starting my day after dinner. After dinner, I prepare myself already for good night's sleep. And that is the most helpful thing to do to actually recover, so you're getting back on track the next day. The next thing is to not outpace you actually outpace everybody if you take care of yourself with the evening routine, which still goes in depth more on the sleep and on the evening routine, because sleep is the one thing that we need a lot of, and we actually need good sleep and not bad sleep. And that will set so much of energy right and of emotions right for the morning, that's quite important. The second thing is to eat right, feed your body right, because then you will also get the right energy. And the topic of energy has a lot to do with yourself too, and that's what I said earlier with the emotions. So it is helpful to take care of our body, mind, and soul, to actually take control and of our energy, and to kind of get a balance on our energy a day, because that's ideally what we want, is to know what we need, what we can expect from the energy we spend. that we can plan our days accordingly to the energy meter, that we plan rest times, that we plan focus times, that we plan deep work and physical work, that we plan all that out a bit throughout the day, and ideally we get into a routine of it, and that's helpful if we get a grip on our energy level, because that is different to everybody a little bit, and so it's hard to tell from the outside of how you actually need to manage your own energy. So yeah, if you found these ideas helpful, leave me a comment underneath. I'm always helpful. I'm always happy to read from you guys, and then I'll see you next time.